Part 1. What we're going to be doing is creating a DFS namespace, a distributed file system namespace, which is essentially a virtual directory that people can use to access folders that are in multiple locations at the same time. There are a few things that we need to do in order to accomplish this. I have a domain controller and a member server. On the member server, go to Server Manager. If you have not already, install the File Services role. Once you've installed the File Services role, click on it, scroll down, and click Add Role Services. Select Distributed File System, click Next, and for the namespace, enter CompDocs. Press Next, and keep domain-based namespace selected. That way, if we ever want to enable DFS replication, we can do so on the domain. Click Next. Each namespace has to have at least 2 targets. Click Add. Click Browse. Click Show Shared Folders. This is the first folder that we want to include in our DFS namespace. Click OK. Click OK. Click Add again. Click Browse. And then type in 2020 Server DC. Show Shared Folders. Here's the other folder that we would like to include in our DFS namespace. Click OK. Click OK. And now we have the 2 folders that we need. Click Next, then click Install. Once it's done installing, you may need to restart the computer. Now, in order for your distributed file system to work, you have to be sure that each of the folders you would like to include in the namespace are shared, and that the user groups that you would like to have access to the folders are included in the file permissions. Once you've done that, everything is smooth sailing. Now, to prove that it works, let's log into our member server with a standard domain user account. Right, once you've logged in, the quickest way to get to the DFS namespace is to press the Start menu, type in // the domain, which in this case is contoso.com, /, and then the name of the DFS namespace, which is CompDocs. Press Enter, and we are delivered to contoso.com /CompDocs, which includes the 2 folders that we designated for this namespace. So we can now have access to both of these shared folders from the same location. If you go to Start menu, Computer, Local Disk, you can see here's the Policies folder. If you go to Network, double-click Domain Controller, here's the SOP folder that we're having access to. So that is the main gist behind distributed file system namespaces. All right, for part 2, we want to set up Terminal Services Web Access for the domain controller. So go to Server Manager, and if you do not have the Terminal Services role installed, click Add Roles, select Terminal Services, click Next, Next, select Terminal Server, and select Terminal Services Web Access. Click Add Required Role Services, and click Next. Click Next, click Do Not Require, click Next. Click Per Device, and click Next. Click Add, type Domain, click Check Names, add Domain Users, click Add, and add Domain Admins. Click Next, accept the defaults, and click Install. And you may need to restart the computer after installation completes. All right, the next thing you want to do on the domain controller is go to Administrative Tools, Group Policy Management. Scroll down to contoso.com, Domains, contoso.com, Group Policy Objects, right-click on Default Domain Controllers Policy, go to Edit, and navigate to Policies, Windows Settings, Security Settings, Local Policies, User Rights Assignment. Double-click Allow Logon through Terminal Services, define these policy settings, add user group, browse, domain, and add domain users, and domain admins. Click OK, click OK, click Apply, click OK. All right. Next thing you need to do is go to Administrative Tools, Terminal Services, Remote App Manager, Add Remote App Programs, click Next, select Paint, click Next, click Finish, and verify down here that it does say yes under Terminal Services Web Access. Next thing you can do is switch over to your member server, log in as a standard user, open up Internet Explorer, and go to http blah 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 the domain /ts. It's going to prompt you for username and password, and then you should see this page. So click on Paint, click Connect, and eventually you should see Paint pop up. And you'll notice down here in the taskbar it says Remote in parentheses to let you know that you are running a remote session of Paint. Now, we can navigate to Paint on here and launch it and actually have a normal session of Paint and this remote session of Paint, two totally separate running programs. So that is how you set up a Terminal Services Web Access server.